Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie. And in this video, I'm going to be looking at the weekend of January the 18th and 19th, 2025. Now, I'm afraid I had technical problems making this video, so it's going to be shorter than usual. And in particular, I'm not going to cover the 12 signs. I'm not really going to have a special topic. So what I am going to do is I'm going to look at the weekend overall from the perspective of what's happening astrologically, and also I'm going to do an I Ching reading for the weekend. So my apologies for that, but occasionally technical problems do happen, and who knows, it might be for the best. So anyway, let's look at what's happening this weekend. So here is a picture of the chart set for midnight on Sunday the 19th. And this weekend we do have two important sign changes. We have the moon moving from Virgo into Libra, and we also have the sun moving from Capricorn into Aquarius. I did want to talk in detail about what it might mean for the sun to move into Aquarius and give my views about the sign Aquarius, but I think I'll hold on until I do the video for Monday to consider this sign. So yeah, we do have these sign changes. So we did go into the weekend with the moon in Virgo and the sun in Capricorn. And by the end of the weekend or into Monday, we've got the moon in Libra, moon in Aquarius. So what we have is Earth transforming into air. And so the Capricorn season is coming to an end. There's less Earth in the sky, more air. Perhaps that means there's more communication, more thinking, more talking, more ideas. And perhaps we're going to be less concerned about material detail. I mean, that is a possibility. But it's not just the fact that we've got the sun and the moon changing sign. Now, I should actually tell you when these sign changes take place. The moon moves into Libra at 3:33 a.m. London time on Sunday. So if you're in Europe, pretty much all of Sunday has the moon in Libra. In the Americas, the moon actually moves into Libra on Saturday evening. So you do get a bit of Libra on Saturday. And then as far as the sun moving into Aquarius is concerned, it takes place London time at 8 p.m. on Sunday. So right at the end of a weekend. In fact, if you're in Australia or New Zealand, the sun doesn't actually move into Aquarius until Monday, and also East Asia. So that is more about Monday. So that's perhaps a good reason why I should be covering the sign Aquarius on Monday when I do the video for that day. We do have some other things going on. There is a conjunction between Venus and Saturn. So this Venus conjunct Saturn has been building up for some time, for the last couple of days, and now it's exact. And this Venus-Saturn conjunction can manifest in quite a few different ways. On a sort of a negative note, Venus conjunct Saturn, you might think that's about people having strong emotions, but maybe keeping them to themselves, not being able to express our strong feelings. So that would be a negative side, and I suppose you could go further and talk about emotional inhibition, but I don't know if I'd go that far. Venus is in Pisces, the sign of its exaltation, and so with the conjunction between Venus and Saturn, we might get the idea of structure. It's the idea of disciplining and controlling something. And so if we have powerful feelings, they're not just going to go all over the place. Saturn can control them, and we are not going to be sloppy. And there might be a sense of discipline with Venus conjunct Saturn. Venus conjunct Saturn could also be quite challenging. So you might get the idea of Saturn wanting to be in control, but then Venus coming along and perhaps softening its boundaries. Now, Venus might be able to do that because it's in Pisces. Venus being exalted in Pisces might actually have some influence on tough Saturn. And, that's not the only aspect going on. We've got Mercury making a sextile to Saturn, and also Mercury making a sextile to Venus. So that Mercury sextile is about communication. Mercury sextile Saturn can be about serious communication and serious thoughts, but not thoughts which are limited and negative. It's perhaps about taking ideas which could be very constructive, even creative, and making them real. So I do think that Saturn could be useful. And additionally, we've got a Venus sextile. We've got Venus sextile Mercury. So Mercury sextile Venus, this aspect is really fortunate. It's very creative. It's about the arts. It's about culture, and it's about tuning into what we're good at. And maybe the fact that we've got Saturn involved, Saturn conjunct Venus, Saturn sextile Mercury, is that we can organize ourselves. So perhaps we have been sort of quite chaotic recently. We've got ideas and plans, and we know we're good at something, but what actually are we good at? And it's all a bit of a mess. But Saturn comes along and it really tightens everything, and it allows us to actually tune into our potential. It's hard work, and we've got to be very disciplined, but it's certainly possible. And I know I'm not doing any forecasts for the 12 signs in this video, and I know that's not very personal. You want something personal, but what I would really urge you to do, regardless of what sign you are, is to really concentrate on that Mercury sextile Venus and the fact that it's linked with Saturn. All of us, regardless of our sign, can use that combination to make the most of what we've got and really tune into our talents and our abilities, and to be hardworking and disciplined. And we mustn't doubt ourselves, but we mustn't be lazy. Certainly don't be complacent about what we can do. It does need some work, but if we're able to do that work, I really do think that we will be able to benefit. So that's all I want to say about the 12 signs. As I said, it's going to be... Sorry, I'm not going to say anything about the 12 signs. That's all I want to say about the astrology, in terms of the heliocentric chart. I mean, the main thing heliocentrically, I'm not going to show you the heliocentric chart, is that there is actually a conjunction between Venus and Jupiter heliocentrically. I mean, Venus is also square Saturn, but that Venus-Jupiter conjunction is about optimism, regardless of the fact that it's square Saturn. So that heliocentric Venus-Jupiter conjunction allows us to think about, what is possible. And many of us are optimistic about the future, even if on the surface things do seem a little bit grim. And if we're not feeling optimistic, then perhaps we need to make the effort to tune into that fundamental optimism within the cosmos. I suppose I should show you the heliocentric chart just to make it absolutely clear what I'm talking about. So that's the geocentric chart. Here is the heliocentric chart. You see what I mean? There's a Venus-Jupiter conjunction heliocentrically. Remember, the heliocentric chart puts the sun at the center of the solar system, and there is Saturn. So heliocentrically, Venus might be making a square to Saturn, which chimes with the fact that there's a Venus-Saturn conjunction. So we've got a Venus-Saturn conjunction geocentrically, but Venus-Saturn square heliocentrically. So it's kind of saying sort of more of the same. But Venus-Jupiter conjunction does remind us that things can get better. Things will get better. At least that's what the cosmos is telling us. So with that heliocentric chart, really try to be as positive as possible. So now I want to look at things from the viewpoint of the I Ching. And, great thing about the I Ching, I don't have to worry about time zones. This is just a generic reading for the weekend. And so I asked the question, what is the weekend going to be like for those watching the I Ching section of this video? And the first hexagram I got was hexagram 33, which is retreat. So we've got two moving lines here. So retreat may say something about Saturday, and the next hexagram may say something about Sunday. So it may say something about the beginning of a weekend. And with retreat, we get the idea that we've gone too far. We're involved in something, and we're now realizing that it's not working out, and we need to back off. And that seems to be the general message, at least at the beginning of a weekend. And it just might be the feeling that we were over-ambitious, and we just don't have the power to see it through. And so there really is no disgrace in retreating. In fact, we shouldn't advance either, particularly in terms with other people. Other people might have brilliant ideas. Let's go forward. But in the end, it's not necessarily going to work out. So that's the thing to do. So if you're wondering whether you should pursue something at the beginning of a weekend, whether you should try your hand at a new enterprise on Saturday or some venture, perhaps you shouldn't, because you might find that it doesn't work out, and it very quickly becomes clear that it doesn't work out. So we get a chance to retreat. What happens if we don't retreat? What happens if we carry on? Then the third line moves. So third line moving can be about getting stuck. I mean, literally tied up. I mean, that's what the symbolism is, being tied up. And it's not looking good. We can't move forward, we can't move backwards. And in that kind of situation, we just have to wait. We just have to hope that things get better. And so that really is not a situation we want to get ourselves into. So at the first sign of trouble, it's important to quit. Because if we wait, it's just going to get worse, and it might reach a stage where we actually can't retreat, where we're stuck in something and we have to wait to be rescued, or we have to wait for the situation to resolve itself. So, certainly on Saturday, we do get the feeling that valor is a better part of discretion. Then this hexagram retreat does move, and it moves to hexagram 25, which is innocence. And this is a much better hexagram. And innocence is about not having any expectations. And this takes us back to retreat. We don't have to retreat unless we first advance. And so at the beginning of a weekend, we might have had ideas about what could be done. We certainly weren't innocent. We had expectations. And it was because of those expectations, perhaps, that things maybe started to go wrong. Then on Sunday, maybe Sunday, I'm suggesting Sunday because retreat moves to innocence, and obviously a weekend, you've got 2 days. If we have no expectations, we may even be feeling a bit sorry for ourselves because things just aren't working, and what's the hope? It's all hopeless. Even if we've gone too far and we find ourselves tied up in knots, there might be just this feeling we're in a real trouble here, and we sort of give up. But then innocence, that moment of giving up, can be so useful. The moment we give up, very often things start to move in our favour. And so if we don't have any expectations, then in the end, things will start to happen. So I think it's a weekend where things start fairly badly. They don't really work. But by the end of the weekend, I think that we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And in fact, there could be quite a radical improvement. And that might also have something to do with the moon changing sign. Moon starts the weekend in Virgo. It's not really going anywhere. But then moon in Libra makes trine to Pluto, then actually starting to make an aspect to starting to make a trine to Jupiter. So overall, I think both the astrology and the I Ching are suggesting that it's a weekend that does get better as it goes along, regardless of your sign. And I'm afraid that is it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm really sorry to be so brief, but I will have another video for tomorrow, and it's just some brief temporary technical problem. In fact, to be precise, it was one of those Windows updates, and a Windows update changed all my settings, and then I did my recording, and then I realized there was no sound, and so that's why it's such a short video. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. If you enjoyed this video, if you happen to enjoy this video, 'cause it's so brief, only in the unlikely event that you enjoyed this video, I'd be very grateful if you were to like it, and if you're not subscribed, I'd be super grateful if you were to subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee, then there is a link in the description. So again, thank you very much for watching. Sorry I'm so brief, and I will talk to you again very soon.